Good day. My name is Chuck Dick. I have the privilege of being a co-chair of the program committee for California Arbitration. And today it's my honor, really, to continue our series of discussions called California Conversations. I'm particularly pleased today because we have one of the up and coming, I should say, shining personalities of California arbitration as our guest to speak a little bit about not only her personal experiences and how she has arrived at this station in life, but as well to tell us a little bit about how she foresees the future of arbitration in California. She's a member of the executive committee of California Arbitration, very active in young Cal Arb, and I say welcome to you, Katie Connolly.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here and to discuss arbitration in California and a little bit about my background in California as well.
Well, that's a great place to start. You're a California person,
I
uh,
am. Mhm.
but you migrated around a little bit. So tell us. You start at UC Berkeley. Perhaps we can begin there with your educational experiences and how that began shaping you and cultivating an interest in international arbitration.
Yeah. So yes, I did start at UC Berkeley. I'm originally born and raised in California. As we'll talk about later, I'm a fifth generation cattle rancher here, so I have a long history in California. But I think like a lot of young California folks, I did want to get away initially for college. So I applied to a lot of East Coast schools initially, wanting to get out to Boston or DC or New York. But I also applied to the UCs here, and knowing that they were some of the top schools in the country. I ended up getting accepted into UC Berkeley, and you just can't really beat the number one public school in the country. So at an in-state tuition as well. So it was the right choice for me to stick around for undergrad. And I went into Berkeley not really knowing what I wanted to do. I knew I was going to do something in kind of the humanities realm, probably. I wasn't really a big science or math person, and I will stick by that to this day. Um, but Berkeley had such a wealth of kind of opportunities for someone who is looking and figuring out their interests. Uh, I ended up going for a double major in what was called legal studies and peace and conflict studies. And so I had this kind of idea that maybe I would go into an international political role or something in the future. So I, wanted that kind of legal basis, but something with an international bent. And this double major really offered me that opportunity to pursue the kind of joint interests that I was developing at that time.
What's the curriculum for peace and conflict studies?
It is an interdisciplinary study. So you can kind of take a lot of different courses throughout the Letters and Science College. I really focused on kind of the legal systems and legal systems in different countries. So it was a lot of looking at, taking some human rights courses, a lot of the development of legal systems and kind of how different people and different countries have sort of viewed the law. And I took that again into kind of my legal studies background as well when I was doing my courses there. So as part of the legal studies course that I did, I, kind of wrote an undergrad dissertation, which, is a very light version of what an actual dissertation would be. But I did it on the framing of the unknown or the other in the society in terms of looking at immigration and specifically in that instance. So it was kind of just this idea of looking at how the legal systems in different countries shapes your everyday life and will affect your life in ways that you don't even think about it doing. So it was very interesting and I loved it. And it gave me an opportunity to kind of test out a lot of different classes within Berkeley and meet a lot of different people in different courses. And, it was kind of everything you would want from an undergrad experience when you were just trying to figure out what you wanted to do.
But then comes law school, and you finally do migrate to the East Coast. Uh, Tell me about that decision, and many people would do it just the reverse, perhaps come back home for postgraduate education. You did the opposite.
I did, yeah. So like I said, I had really wanted to get to the East Coast. And, I had my undergrad experience in Berkeley. I absolutely loved it. But I kind of had a sense because of this background with my family's cattle ranch that if I didn't take an opportunity in school to live somewhere else, experience another, state in the US, um, I knew I was going to end up back in California. So this was kind of my opportunity to go out and do that. And I had fallen in love with Washington, D.C. When I was, just as a high school student, we visited colleges on the East Coast kind of thing. I'd fallen in love with D.C. I really wanted to end up there. And so I applied to, I think, every school in DC, every law school in DC, including Georgetown, where I ended up. So it was a very kind of pointed effort on my part to end up on the East Coast in DC for law school. And for me, on the kind of the academic side of things, it was again that international focus. I wanted to do something international. I still didn't know exactly what that was, but I knew that DC was the place to be for that. So I wanted to go there so that I could, again, use that opportunity to be in a new city and a city that is incredibly exciting and has a lot of obviously international connections to figure out what I wanted to do.
Well, you up to that point now have a very accomplished and cosmopolitan kind of, let's say, worldview of things, much more so, I suspect, than the average person in the mid-20s. Um, you join a law firm in DC that has a global footprint, Norton Rose. You seem to me to be on a trajectory to things that don't have an awful lot to do with California.
No, but I will say, out of law school, I took the California bar right away. I knew that that was probably where I was going to end up. It's obviously a very difficult bar exam. It was still a 3-year bar exam at that time. So I made that decision that, when I was going to study for a bar, it was going to be California. And luckily, my firm was very supportive. We do work in California, even from DC. So they were very happy to have a California barred attorney. And then I could wave into DC from there. So yeah, I think, I was hired into our international arbitration group at Norton Rose Fulbright. So I had this opportunity to kind of work internationally in a generalist practice almost, which it's really hard to do that, where I could just kind of learn to be a litigator, but internationally. And so it was this really incredible opportunity. And I think even then I was able to recognize that it was a pretty unique opportunity to be hired in as a summer associate and then an associate into an international arbitration group in DC. And I was really looking to take full advantage of that opportunity. And it has worked out very well for me because I was able to bring that experience back to California eventually.
What were some of the things in that first year of your experience at Norton Rose that sort of left an impression on you and encouraged you to continue your pursuit of this international dispute resolution work?
Yeah, I that's a really interesting question. I was immediately thrown into this kind of practice where I had heard about it a little bit. Georgetown has a wonderful international arbitration LLM program, really extensive, a lot of really incredible adjunct professors there. And as a JD, you can take those LLM courses. So I had had some exposure to international arbitration, but it was still this like very amorphous kind of thing for me. I had a couple of buzzwords that I was able to use in my interview, but if you really had drilled down and asked me what it was, I think I would have struggled a bit. So when I really joined and had an opportunity to work on multiple international arbitrations, both commercial and, treaty arbitrations right away as a summer and a first year, I just kind of fell in love with it. It was this opportunity to do something completely different every single day, either working with clients in different countries or working with laws and local counsel in different countries, dealing with a wealth of different industries. And really, I love legal writing. That's kind of where my focus is. I'm a big proponent of taking as many legal writing courses as you can and focusing your practice or your education on that. And so for me, it was this opportunity to really put to the test my legal writing skills and refine them through these kind of incredible briefs you would write in international arbitration versus the litigation side, which I do. My practice is about 50% litigation. And so, which is much more kind of a lot more oral advocacy, a lot more, quick motions practice, thinking on your feet, dealing much more adversarial in a lot of ways. And so I really liked that almost more academic international arbitration
Mhm.
side. And so just having an opportunity to do that right out of law school was so incredible. And I learned so much. It was truly one of those throw you in the deep end and see if you swim opportunities. And I did, I managed. And so it's been really incredible ever since.
But in spite of all that, really remarkable experience as a young professional, you obviously couldn't break the ties with California. So tell us a little bit about your own personal decisions to come back to California and where that has led you into your current practice.
Yeah. So, like I said, I am a fifth generation cattle rancher here in California. I want to say it's great grandparents. Every time I get it mixed up, but came over from Ireland, settled in this area in Livermore and Tracy in California, as sheep rancher, sheep shepherds, and eventually in the 1930s switched to cattle, like most of the country in California at that time. And since then, we've been a family owned and operated cattle ranch. So when I was in DC, I was getting back home to California maybe twice a year. And each time was, during the busiest parts of cattle season to help out. But it was really falling on my parents and my sister. We don't have anyone else helping us. It's just the family. So it was falling a lot on them. And I was really feeling like I wasn't, you know, picking up my part of this thing that is a really integral part of my identity. When people ask me who I am, I'm a cattle rancher and a lawyer. And so it was really important to me, and I just felt really disconnected from it. Um, and so I kind of knew once I had established my practice in DC and I felt comfortable within my firm, I just felt like the right time to see if I could move back to California. And that was a risk within my practice because it didn't feel to me like there was a lot of international arbitration in California. If my firm had said no, I knew I was going to have struggle probably to find a role similar to what I was doing in a different firm in California. So I was worried about it, about kind of being able to keep this international practice and make the move. But my firm was very supportive. I talked to them about it. We decided I could move out to our San Francisco office and work to build up a practice here. And that was really incredible. I was a fourth or fifth year at a time at that time. So sort of to have that support from my firm to be able to do that and come back to California where I have these really deep roots and am able to kind of parallel keep up this other part of my life that is really important to me. I think has made me a better lawyer and a better person, definitely. And I hope has added some value to my firm. And now that I'm involved in California arbitration, to that as well.
You used the term cattle rancher the other just a few minutes ago as if it was just a label, but when you said it's an integral part of who you are, um, that suggests it's more than just a label around your neck. Tell us what you mean by that.
Yeah, so it's this property has been in my family since the 1870s. My sister and I were raised there. It's, when it's a family owned and operated operation, it just becomes part of your daily life. My parents and my sister still live on the ranch. I live off the ranch now, but nearby. And so every day is, this fence is broken. This cow is in the wrong field. This spring needs to be fixed. It's just a constant part of your daily life. Um, and then on top of that, the land that for us is just the most beautiful place on earth. It's both behind me. And protecting that and conserving it for future generations and making sure that it is there in a not, in a as pristine as it can be form, for people to enjoy and for the rest of, my life, certainly, is something that I think I have thought about since for as long as I can remember, making sure that the ranch is a part of our family and a part of the conservation story in California. Truly, since I have memories, has been kind of something that we've thought about as a family and have worked to do. So that is, it just kind of, every minute of every day, it is part of who you are and part of what you're thinking about. And a lot of what I do is working towards that goal of, making sure that I can keep this ranch as part of my family. And be able to do my best with what I have and the resources I have available for that purpose.
Well, let me pursue this just one step further. I wonder, what are the adjectives that describe you as now this fifth generation rancher slash lawyer? You've got some special characteristics, I suspect, that our viewers would like to know about.
Oh, man, adjectives to describe me. It's funny. So my friends, I think, would say that uh I don't know a single adjective. I'm trying to think of one, but they always lament at how kind of I constantly have 1,000 things going on. It's this is being a lawyer in a large law firm is a full-time job and often more than a full-time job on its own. And add to that a cattle ranch, which also is a full-time job. And you're just juggling 1,000 things all of the time. It is a constant juggle of, okay, can I be out at the ranch, before I start work to do this on this day? And, this weekend I have to make sure that I clear my plate of law work because I'm going to be out there. But if something goes wrong and I have a hearing one day, I have to make sure my sister is available to be out on the ranch. So it is just I am my type A lawyer personality really comes out on the scheduling side where I'm like, okay, I have my entire week planned out. I have this hour here and this hour here. So the juggling side of it, I think and the ability to manage that, I think is probably one of the things that my friends talk about most when they're talking about me. But I think the thing that I notice myself with it is I'm a fundamentally optimistic and hopeful person. And I think that, being a lawyer, sometimes I find that's the cynical side coming out a lot. It's hard to deal with our legal system. A lot of times you get very frustrated with opposing counsel. I love those memes that are always like, as a lawyer, your job and other people's jobs are to make your life miserable a lot of the time. And so you sometimes feel that a lot in our line of work. But the ranch for me reminds me that things are going to persevere a long time. There's a ton of beauty out there. You can do really good work. And so I think one of the things I really kind of about myself and, hope I portray to other people is this kind of general optimism and hope kind of for the world and for the future.
Many people think of a cattle rancher or agriculture generally as being associated with people who have a particular focus on property rights. And I wonder what role you think that has played in the shaping and the development of you as a lawyer.
Yeah, so this one's really interesting for me because it is a little bit of kind of a it's not a juxtaposition in any way, but I agree. There is a perception out there. And you know, I am obviously a proponent of private property. We have this cattle ranch in our family. It's really important to us that we're able to retain ownership of that and to pass that along to my sisters and my children someday. And to be able to, exclude people from our property, through various protections of, private property rights. All of that, 100% very important. But I think that for us, there's this interesting idea of you can get help when doing that. So I personally, and I think the ranch too, massive proponents of, the EPA and various, environmental protections that are available, and, conservation efforts from state government, federal government, local governments, from private, NGOs and other nonprofits out there. There are a lot of people that are doing really incredible work around conserving our natural resources for future generations. And that is incredibly important to make that available, to protect endangered species, and to rely on yourself and your neighbors when doing that. So, it's really kind of an interesting time, I think, for people, particularly with family-owned ranches and other farms and everything out there. It's really tough. I mean, part of the reason I became a lawyer is my sister and I were raised by my parents, kind of on the mantra that you cannot just be a rancher or a farmer. You're not going to survive. You can't make a living on that. And you won't be doing a service to the ranch or the farm itself if you do that. You have to have an understanding of kind of the business side of it, the legal side of it, the, medical side of it, whatever it might be. You have to go out, and my parents were, you have to get a higher degree, not just a college degree, but some additional higher degree as well, to be able to be the best steward of the land that you could be. So I went out and became a lawyer. My sister went out and became a veterinarian. So we are really taking that to heart, and like, we are here to kind of be the stewards of this land that we have been lucky enough to be raised on and to eventually inherit. And so, we're working towards that and using the resources available to be able to conserve and protect that.
One of the things, Katie, that makes you most interesting is this simultaneous focus on local property rights, if we can use that phrase, as a rancher, and yet you have this worldview. You begin by studying other countries' legal systems, and you've got this kind of a globalist mindset that is married together, which is just strikes me as interesting, and it has to say something about who you are.
Yeah. I mean, I think the reality is, we're part of a big world. And, everything going on in the world is going to affect you on a local level in some way. And I am someone who, I love learning about other countries, other legal systems, other cultures. I love traveling. And it's a really interesting kind of juxtaposition. I'm always looking to get away, but I think part of that is because, and go somewhere else. But I think part of that is because I have this incredible link to where I'm from. I know where I'm from. I know it will be there for me. I know I can always come home to it. And so I can go out and explore and learn and bring that back and try to make where I'm from and kind of this land that we have and this ranch and my local area a better place. So it is interesting. And whether my kind of global views and my desire to work globally and travel globally comes from kind of having this place where I always knew I was going to come back to. You probably need somebody with a psychology degree to really delve into that, but I'm sure there's a connection.
Well, share with us, if you would, some of the life lessons, the values that you have extracted from your ranching experience, and how those get translated into your practice of law and your service of your clients as a practicing attorney.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. I think one of the things is, for me, it's a recognition, I think, of what people are fighting for to you may seem insignificant or small or, maybe not that important, but to them it can be everything. People might look at, like, for example, a family cattle ranch and, from the, started in the 1870s. And if it closed, it's like, oh, that's so sad, just kind of thing. But for me, that's 5 generations of just love and devotion and, identity gone. And so that recognizing that everyone kind of has that in some way, that what they are fighting for and what they are asking for representation for is often kind of everything for them. I think that is something that's really valuable for me, is just being able to empathize and recognize kind of everyone is going to have that thing that is really important to them, and being able to advocate for them in a way that matches them on that level, and being able to be the best advocate for them. Kind of on the flip side of that, though, I think, when you get into these big legal world, the big law world, things can seem really high. It's very high stress. Everything is an emergency all of the time. And so I do appreciate kind of having the grounding of actual, sometimes, like, emergencies on a ranch, to be like, this is a legal profession. We can sometimes take a step back, take a breath, get back to that in the morning. And it is nice, I have to say, every once in a while, just to get out in nature and kind of de-stress on a really beautiful ranch every once in a while, to remind yourself that not everything is a computer screen.
Well, all right. You left a promising opportunity in Washington, D.C. You migrated back to Northern California. Uh, your firm was gracious enough to give you the rope to begin to develop a practice in the international commercial arbitration arena. So let's talk a little bit about how you've gone about doing that. I know you've been involved in, for example, the Institute for Transnational Arbitration in Texas, and other activities that have helped elevate your profile. But share with our viewers some of the lessons you've learned as you've tried to get your feet on the ground and build a practice here in California.
Yeah, I think California is such an interesting legal industry. It's very kind of unique. And in that, the court system here is so extensive and massive, and you have so many people with so many varied interests trying to take advantage of the various legal remedies that are available to them here. And so the kind of finding your place as a lawyer within this legal system is a little daunting for someone kind of coming in from the outside. And so for me, I think one of the most important things has been developing the relationships within California. I came in as someone without really any legal relationships within California at all. My practice was in DC. I was California barred, but even when I was practicing in California, it was largely with people outside of California. And so, I sort of had to start from the ground up in finding a way to become part of this community, because particularly in international arbitration, referrals and, getting work from other attorneys and people you've maybe worked across the aisle from, in addition to, people that you just know kind of through your community, is incredibly important. So I started to find those opportunities to become involved in various organizations in California. I took an opportunity to teach a legal research and writing course, at a law school here in California, to kind of break into just learning more about the academic system here and meeting other professors within the legal community, many of whom are adjuncts, and work as practicing lawyers in California. Getting involved in California arbitration has probably been the single most important thing I've done in trying to break into this legal market. But like you said, working with ITA, continuing to publish articles, going to basically any kind of mixer I can with an international arbitration focus on it has been incredibly rewarding in forming those relationships and just beginning to get to a point where, people can and will refer work to you because they know you do good work, and they know that you do international arbitration in California. And so that's been probably the most important thing for me.
I'd be remiss if I didn't give you an opportunity to make a sales pitch for young Cal Arb.
I would very much appreciate that. So yes, Young Cal Arb is the young practitioner arm of California Arbitration. I am co-chair with my colleague Tiana Mulakeva in Los Angeles. I kind of do the Northern California side. She handles our Southern California side. We really make an effort to create a community for younger practitioners who are either in California looking to break into international arbitration or outside of California in international arbitration looking to move their practice here. And we do that in, a variety of ways, providing opportunities to get published with our partnership with Clue or Blog, putting on panels in the law schools in California to, highlight different ways to become an international arbitration practitioner. Doing happy hours and participating in the California International Week as young Cal Arb, and to give our young practitioners opportunities to speak and present and, build their own elevator pitches for their practice. So yes, if you are at all interested in international arbitration in California, please join Young Cal Arb. We would love to have you, and we would love to find ways to help you build your practice.
That's a nice segue into asking you if you just kind of gaze out into the future a little bit, not only your own personal future, but the future of the profession, and share with us kind of some of the things that you see evolving and happening, and where you think you're going to end up, and where we're all going to find, particularly international commercial arbitration taking us in the future.
Yeah, I think it's It's a really interesting question, and it's one that's asked pretty often, and the answers can kind of vary depending on the sort of current trajectory of what's happening at that moment. What I would say is that, I think particularly commercial arbitration, it's here to stay. I mean, it is a way of dispute resolution in which, you know, parties can have confidence in a neutral and efficient in the way that it is tailored to their needs legal system and form of dispute resolution. And I don't think that those benefits are ever going to disappear. I mean, those are just always going to be things that will be beneficial to parties in a commercial relationship. My hope is that parties will recognize that there are incredible advantages to being in California for these purposes, for dispute resolution, particularly if your business is connected to California. There's this like standard kind of idea that the hearts of commercial dispute resolution are New York if you're in California, or maybe somewhere else, but California is an incredible venue. The laws that we have here, particularly protecting international arbitration in commercial businesses, are going to be beneficial for people to take advantage of, and we have some really lovely venues for people to host these dispute resolution hearings at. So, we have the practitioners here, we have the legal system here, particularly for companies that have a connection to California. This is a very beneficial venue for you to be in. And I'm hoping that it will, more and more companies will take advantage of that as it becomes a more and more established seat for arbitrations.
Your use of the word optimism, not only to describe yourself, could be applied to the future. And I must confess, Katie, one of the reasons I would be very optimistic about the future of this practice in California is because of people like you and the people, as I say, like you, who are gathering together now to form a real force within the legal profession and putting international arbitration really firmly into the ranks of major law firms, especially. So I compliment you for all that you have done. I guess I'm doubly excited to see somebody who wears both I assume a cowboy hat at some point. Uh,
Yes. Abby.
and at the same time has the ability to perhaps because you're a type A personality, to keep on top of really a thriving and growing law practice. It's been fun to have you on California Conversations today. I'm pleased to have you use this platform to tell a little bit about yourself to our viewing audience. And I wish you the very best going forward. Thanks again for taking your time to be with us on California Conversations.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.